Hello and welcome back to the Book Marketing Tips and Author Success Podcast. This is Penny Sansevieri.
And Amy Cornell.
And first off, I'm so excited. My book is up for pre-order, the Amazon Author Formula Workbook. Really stoked about that. The book goes live the book is up for pre-order now. The on-sale date for the book is the 20th of June. So I'm really excited. We also have some really fun pre-order, a pre-order contest. All the details will be in the show notes. We're doing 10 Amazon page power-up packet giveaways. That's a mouthful. And everybody who pre-orders the book gets my list of Amazon, my 5 top Amazon mastery tips. I'm super excited. So we have a lot of stuff going on our social media. Definitely be sure to check it out. I'm really thrilled with this book. I'm very excited. What's interesting is that, so we're doing this show on chat. Amy and I both love chat. We have ChatGPT. Of course, we refer to it as chat because much like Amazon page power-up package, ChatGPT is also kind of a mouthful. And we use it I've used it for like travel planning and like really fun stuff. And I think a lot of authors are having fun kind of exploring it, which is why we sort of thought that it would be fun to kind of brainstorm some ways that you can use it to ramp up your productivity. Amy, what did you use chat for?
Oh my gosh, personal or professional?
Personally, yeah.
Personally, one of my favorite ways to use it now is to create a meal plan for the week, because I've got kiddos in sports. I've got half the time I'm solo parenting. Like it's amazing. I can put in all the details, like this is what we like. This is how many people it needs to feed. This is, you know what I mean? We've got active kids, blah, blah, like down. I don't want to have to go shopping every day for new stuff. So keep it simple. And it's amazing. Oh, and another one, and hopefully if anybody decides to do this, this is huge. I actually also asked it to focus on meals where you could do a lot of prep work in advance. So
that's great.
Yeah. So you weren't doing it all that evening right ahead of actually cooking the meal. And it was fantastic. Like it is my new favorite thing to do, because then when I find a block of time, I can do some prep and then, it's so much easier. Yeah. But that has been my absolute favorite. And then I've taken a couple trips recently where I thought, you know what, let me just ask chat. Because again, when you only have an afternoon free, like what should I do this afternoon in this city? I've got a couple kids with me, 3 adults, whatever, and what's great to eat nearby, the places you're recommending. So not only did it recommend activities and things to do, but it also said, and while you're there, there's these 3 restaurants that we'd recommend based on, and I was like, this is so great.
It's so great. It really is. And I know a lot of authors, because we get a lot of people who come to us because they found us on ChatGPT, searching like book publicity services, book marketing services. So it's also being used as a search engine, right? Much like Google, which is just, it's staggering. But there are a lot of books out there on chat right now. In fact, I was thinking the other day, I'm like, I should write a book on, creative ways that authors can use ChatGPT. But a lot of these books are built on the premise of having chat make you rich, right? So I saw this one account was how to create $1 million book idea, how to start a small business as a side hustle and make $1 million in your first year and stuff like that. I don't really know. I love chat. Amy and I both do, but I think you also have to kind of be careful how much you rely on chat for like big life decisions, right? Because again, it's an AI, it's pulling from information, but it's also the other thing to understand too about chat is that what you get out is only as good as what you put in. So one of the things that I think is worth leading with, which we actually didn't talk about when we were in the green room, but it's definitely worth mentioning, is the more information that you can put into chat, the better your results will be, as well as you want to really tell chat what it is. So like in one of the one of the things that is really fun to brainstorm is having chat, for example, like if you're really struggling with social media, right? You might ask chat for feedback on, I'm on Instagram, I'm not really getting a lot of feedback. Here's what I'm about, here's my brand, here's my book, here are future books that I have planned, or here's how many other books that I have out. But you would lead off saying you are a social media expert, you're a, you're a genius at creating viral social media content, etc. And then you put all of the parameters into chat. So it's really only as good as the information that you give it. Because if you just say, give me some social media ideas, chat's going to spout out. Because I tried that just in preparation for the show, and chat just spouted out a bunch of nonsensical stuff that I would never use, even if I was desperate. Right. So, I mean, it's kind of like, Amy, what you were saying, like with your meal planning stuff, you have to be really specific on here's what we like to eat, here's our schedule, here's what we have, you know what I mean? And
Yep.
that kind of thing, the more specific that you can be with your directive to chat, the better that your results will be. The other thing that I want to say, just personally, one of the things that I've learned about chat is that if I like, so Amy and I, we share a business chat account, and we have projects under in the various sections of chat. Chat will allow you to create projects. And when we first started using chat, that wasn't the case. And one of the reasons that I love these projects is because it keeps everything in under a particular project, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, when I finished writing the Amazon Author Formula workbook, I actually uploaded it to chat, and I asked chat for what could I have done better? I want you to give me manuscript feedback. Um, where do you think the reader is? You know, I knew who I wrote the book for, but I wanted chat to read through it and give me its assessment of who they felt that the book was for, to make sure that it had matched what I did. But I created a project for that, so that now everything under the Amazon Author Formula workbook, all of the different chats that I have stay under that project, and it's much easier to find it too. So if you're going to use it for social media, or if you're going to use it for a particular book, and I've known authors to use it to find plot holes, because, I mean, sometimes we're our own worst enemies when it comes to, especially if you write fiction and you're just like, oh, I know that I missed something. The last thing that you want is to have a reader post a review on Amazon like, well, this whole string didn't make sense. Uploading it to, I mean, obviously you want to get an editor. And by the way, let me just say, I know I'm kind of rambling about all the things on, because I get so excited about chat. Please don't use chat as your editor ever. I actually tried that because I had an author tell me that that's what they did. The gobbledygook that chat spit out was just like, I deleted the entire string because it was nonsensical. So
Mm-hmm.
I think book feedback is a great idea, but I I would never have chat edit your book at
No. Yes. Yeah, I agree with you, Penny. It's great to have it point out things to consider, but don't have it fix things for you.
Yes,
You
thank you.
know? Yes.
Thank you.
So, yeah, have it. It's great for pointing out, like you said, plot holes. I think that's brilliant. Same thing for nonfiction. You
Mhm.
can ask it, like, do all this, are there any steps missing? Are there any, you know what I mean, missing, you know what I mean? Like, there's such great ways to have it point out things that you could potentially consider, but still, you should be the expert in your topic. You should be the expert in your book. But take those and consider, like, okay, can I do something more with this? But you definitely need to be the one to create that additional content and connect those dots.
Yeah. Because I've actually used chat for, like, if I'm kind of beating my head against the wall about what am I going to post on social media,
Mm-hmm.
I've used chat to give me social media ideas. And I will say that one of the things that I love so much about using chat is that I would say probably in 80 to 90% of the cases, I don't use what chat has created verbatim,
Mm-hmm.
but it helps to spark my own creativity. And I think that is oftentimes the best use of
Yeah.
ChatGPT. I get really concerned when I see authors using it very literally.
Yeah.
And so, I think to spark ideas. The other thing is that I actually had, so, and as authors, you can also do this too. So I had chat profile our website versus our competitors out there. And I asked chat, I said, okay, I want you to tell me what I'm missing, what I need to do more of. And of course, chat's like, oh, well, you have to do more video.
Hmm.
And which Amy and I always go around like, oh my God, I have to do video. Now I have this green screen kind of have hanging in my office because I know like, oh my gosh, I'll just have it ready and when I need to do video. But then when I asked it for video ideas, many of the ideas that it came up with were a little absurd.
Right. It
So
doesn't know the brand. It doesn't know our audience. You know what I mean?
it doesn't really know the brand. So I think that, but then there's also so the learning, and this is not to discourage you from going to writers' conferences and learning at events from experts and things like that. But sometimes like you just need to learn how to like, I'm really struggling with Instagram or really struggling to learn TikTok or whatever. Um, you could give chat a prompt that says, um, you're an advanced social media expert and educator. Break down the Instagram skill into a 15-day crash course. Each day should have a goal, a practice task, and if you want to take it even further, 1 to 2 advanced tips for learning. So it chat, well, I mean, and in that instance, because it's specific enough, yet it's still general, right? So you're just looking for Instagram tips to master that platform in to try to beef up your to beef up your social. And Amy, you and I have used this for a lot of efficiency stuff and not necessarily because I'm not a huge fan of automating everything. I like the personalization that I think that we bring to our stuff, but in terms of like internal tasks and stuff, I mean,
Oh yeah, it's been really helpful. And we have a team member who I think I'm not at all saying anything she wouldn't fully like give a round of applause to. She likes to use it now because she will actually write when she has new ideas, she'll start writing out her email and then she'll put it in chat and have it like basically ask it to make sure that it's like all the key points are hit, that it's super concise. Basically ask it to make it make sense for other people that aren't inside her brain. And she's
yeah,
like, it's been the best ever because, and I'm sure a lot of people listening can, relate to that a little bit, that sometimes you have so many ideas buzzing around in your head that sometimes it's so hard to get started and just figure out what to do first.
yeah,
And you can dump those into chat and just be very brutally honest with it and saying, I need to come up with a better plan so I'm working more efficiently. You know what I mean? Like, what are your recommendations? What am I doing that's wasting time? Things like that. And it works really, really great. And it's also been really helpful in terms of sorting out processes too,
yes,
internal processes, in especially getting them written out in ways that make sense to multiple people that have different working styles, because it's a great way for everybody to kind of follow along. But then it's written out in a very just straightforward way that doesn't lean one way or the other in terms of learning style or working style. And I think it would be really great for those of you listening that may have the option to work with a virtual assistant or something like that. So if you want to create manuals or tasks or anything like that to where you can potentially offload some of your work to a virtual assistant, that using chat would be a fabulous way to make up a plan and say, okay, do we both agree on this? Excellent. You know what I mean? To ensure you have aligned expectations and goals.
yeah, exactly. And one of the things I think that authors really struggle with is when they're doing, because when I talk to authors about this always comes up when they're doing social media ads, so Facebook and Instagram or TikTok, whatever, they really have a hard time writing the ad copy.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I encourage them to do is go into chat and say, you're an award-winning ad copywriter. I want to create Instagram ads or TikTok ads for, you know, insert your book title that hook readers and generate emotion and drive clicks. Now, one of the things that I would recommend in that case is don't just have chat create one ad. I would have them create like 10 because of the 10, 8 are not going to be spot on, but you may get 1 or 2 that are going to be really good. Okay. And one thing that I started, because I know I'm so excited about this, I was so excited about the show. I started down this rabbit hole and then I kind of deviated off of there by talking about projects. Once you start a chat, once you start a conversation that isn't going the way that you want it to go, like if you started off with a bad directive and chat's just spouting out a bunch of really random stuff, kill that and start over. Because
Mhm.
one of the things that I have learned is that one single chat conversation continues to inform all of its answers. So if you started off with a bad directive, it's going to bleed into every. So even if you say, oh, okay, well, I really meant to say this, and then you go back and you give it a new directive, chat is still pulling from that old content. It's a really weird kind of a thing. So kill it off, delete it,
Yeah.
and start over. And that's something that I found. That's something else that I found with chat too. And yeah, I mean, and like I said, I just think that you can, the more specific that you can be with chat from the get-go. And it's taken me, it's taken me a while to really learn, to really get a handle on it. Because as I said, there's a lot of books out there on chat GPT prompts that I think are potentially helpful, but there's really way too much stuff out there on how to use chat GPT to make you rich, which is not A, it's not the purpose of this particular episode, but B, I don't really know how, I don't really know how that can, that can work out. So we just did a show on Ask Me Anything, the Reddit show that we did a couple of weeks ago. If you end up doing an Ask Me Anything, you can brainstorm ideas for doing that, right? So how you're going to present it or what you're going to talk about, things like that. Um, Amy, you came up with the idea of book club questions, which I love because a lot of times authors are so close to their own, they're too close to their own topic.
Yes. And I realize a lot of our recommendations they are homework for y'all, you know?
Yeah.
And we talk about bonus content a lot. We talk about ways to keep your readers engaged with your brand beyond the book, especially if you're going to write multiple books. There will be lags between releases. And how do you keep people coming back to your website, to your social, when you don't have a book to be the star of all your content? So creating bonus content, creating quizzes, creating tips sheets, all those kind of things, book club questions. These are amazing because they can live on your website as magnets to collect emails. They can be bonus downloads. You can use them as promos for social media or your newsletter.
Mhm.
So many different things, but chat is a great resource for, again, getting out of your own head and just giving you new ideas to consider that, like Penny said, when you get too close to your own work, sometimes it gets even harder.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it does get harder. And that's where I think that chat, using it as kind of, and Amy uses this phrase all the time, using it as a second brain
Mhm.
is really, it can really be beneficial to kind of help you get out of your own way in some cases, right? The other thing is reader demographics. So I love when authors use chat to really drill down on their reader demographics. And I think this is something that a lot of times, I mean, even if you are at the early stages of writing your book, using chat to identify, what readers want, who your ideal reader is, things like that. If
Mhm.
I had a dime for every time that I've talked to an author that who does not know who their reader demographics, I'd be richer than, you name your billionaire, whatever. But so reader demographics, I think, staying current on trending topics in your industry. My only hesitation with that is I think that's great, but my only hesitation with that is that there's really nothing like going to the source. So I think following some key people in your industry, and maybe that's really where chat can guide you instead. Just because, like when we just did the podcast on the changes to the Amazon algorithm, which dropped last week. So if you missed that, go back and check it out. And I went into chat to get some ideas not necessarily for the show, but I wanted to have chat tell me what other people in the industry were saying about this particular change. And much of the content was really old. So I think that I would take the trending topics thing with sort of a grain of salt because I don't know. And it could have been just how I asked chat, because as we just hark back to the first part of the show where we talked about what you put in, you get out,
Yes,
you know?
absolutely. Yeah, and this one too, I tested it for a client recently that has a personal finance book.
Mhm.
And what was interesting, and I agree, you always want to click, and we're going to talk about this in a minute. You always want to vet what goes through chat before you just run with something. You can't trust it indefinitely, but it was interesting because it was able to give examples of articles coverage that was happening around their topic right now. And it was helpful for the author to realize what they could potentially be talking about in order to garner more media interest and more coverage.
Yeah.
Because it was like, okay, right now, these are the kind of articles that are popping up and that are trending for this topic. And it's interesting to go check those out, like you said, Penny, just to see what's being talked about and what's out there. Because it was insightful to know this clearly is what these sources are covering. And they're doing it for a reason, right? So it's like, can you speak to this? And what was interesting, a few of the results also mentioned some changes in tax law, some changes. So there was other things that kind of, again, gave you more things to consider that maybe you wouldn't have come to on your own, because it's easy to get laser focused on your content when your area of expertise, you could actually speak to things beyond the book. You know what I mean? But you get so laser focused on one thing that it's like, wait, no, I can actually speak to that too. And then your book's going to organically get attention from that just by being out there as a name and as a source.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I think that is I definitely I love chat for, doing industry research, but again, I think you definitely
Yep.
want to have people that you're already following in the industry. So let's talk about some things to not use chat for. All right. And I'm not just saying this because we do Amazon optimization here as a company. Do not use chat for keywords and categories on Amazon. I've tried it.
It's terrible.
It's really bad. Yeah, it's really bad. And I mean, some of the stuff that it spit out was just like,
But
wow.
it's very convincing, which is why it's dangerous.
Yeah, it's very convincing. That's the other thing though too, is that you have to kind of come at chat with sort of a critical mind. I was very excited about using chat for SEO for our website. So I went in and I poured my heart out to chat about SEO, and I sent it to Amy, and she was basically like, yeah, so we did all this stuff like a year ago. And so there wasn't anything. I mean, some of it was even scary.
Wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of it was just straight up wrong. And also the data was bad in terms of, we're big fans of Uber Suggest. Neil Patel is on top of his stuff. I'm keeping this
Yeah.
PG. So I also went through and did some checks, just cross checks between what chat was saying and the number of searches it was saying that certain terms were getting. And it was so far off the mark,
Yeah.
like in both directions, overinflated numbers, underreported numbers. It was just like, where is this coming from? But so definitely don't use it for that either. Or, if you really, it's your last resort, have another source to cross check it. And you might end up with a few that work, but it's definitely shouldn't be your one and only by any means.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree with that. And Amy I want to leave this to Amy. She has a funny story to talk about media lists. So we tried
Oh,
pulling. So
yes.
we tried pulling, like, I want to see if chat, because we have a media database service that we pay for. It's very expensive. And I'm like, I wonder if we could just start using chat to pull up our media and pitch lists of the, people we want to pitch to outside of, maybe just context that I have, you know, sitting in my Rolodex. Now I'm going to use a term that just makes me sound super old. But
Oof.
do you want to talk about how
Yeah,
bad the lists
I
were?
mean,
Because they were
and
so
again,
bad.
yeah. And again, like we said, it can be great for pushing you to think outside the box.
For sure.
But you always, this is another area where if you want to use chat to get an idea of who thought leaders are out there right now, or maybe some podcast shows, what's actually great about chat, like, what's nice is that they will show you the sources that they use to get that information. And I've actually corrected chat before when I looked up something and then it showed me the sources and it was like Wikipedia and something else. I'm like, absolutely not. That is not a source. You need to look at X, Y, and actually told it what kind of sources were acceptable. And it said, sorry about that. Yes, looking into and then I got some better answers like I was expecting, but I thought, so always pay attention to that too, because when you're asking it, if it's quoting anything specific or data or anything, it'll tell you the source of that. And you really should look at that with a critical eye as well. Where's that coming from? But we actually had, I mean, thank goodness an individual on the team caught it. But
Oh my gosh.
one of the recommendations for somebody that we should contact based on, the topic the individual had actually passed like a couple years ago. So that is another reason. Do not trust chat like blindly. Check your sources. Our team member was very smart. She said, "Yep, that person has passed, and I'm glad I didn't send an email to that individual because what if their family still owns the business or whatever? It's like, oh gosh, like talk about major faux pas, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
so that is one of those things too. Like you definitely don't want to blindly follow any recommendations or any sources because they can be dated. Like Penny said, like sometimes they're just old, sometimes they're just dated. It's really better for thinking outside the box in terms of you can check them out, see what they cover, see what kind of content they're putting out, check out their socials, but it doesn't actually mean that that is the right person to contact, but it will start giving you some great market research on your topic, your genre, your demographic, things like that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the person that they called out or outlet that they called it is an exact right fit, but it does give you some good feedback.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And then the other piece of it, I think, is so we talked about editing,
Mm-hmm.
hashtags for social media
They're always, yeah, it's
are
another one.
always so bad. There's
It's,
even when I ask it for social media ideas, I'm like, give me some hashtags. It's like, oh my gosh, they're so bad.
I know. When they do that, I picture like a little gremlin working behind the scenes, like eating popcorn and like just like looking very messy and like messing with us sometimes. Like, I'm gonna see if they fall for this. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think, I mean, the takeaway is that you really don't just blindly copy and paste. You really
hmm
have to, you know, chat is great as it can be a time saver. It can be an efficiency expert. It can help you plan travel. It
yeah,
can do all the things, but I think that, you know, don't become too reliant on absolutely everything that chat spits out to you because it could, the other piece of it though too is that you always, I mean, chat says that right up front, like, oh, chat can make mistakes, but then sometimes you get really excited, you get content, and then you read through it and you're just like, well, I would never say that. I mean, and anybody who's ever seen me speak in person and you maybe glean that from just the podcast, like I'm super excited about all the things. Like I'm just like, yay, I'm just super excited. But chat is even more so. Like chat is like 10 times the level of excitement that I have on just any normal day. And that enthusiasm when it's on a page sounds a little psycho. Like I don't really know how else to nicely say it.
no, it's true. It's excited about everything, and
Yeah.
yeah, and it makes me sound like Eeyore, poor Penny. She'll send something, I'm like, it's too happy. Like, I'm like, we are not that happy. We can't possibly be that happy. It's not realistic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know. So again, you want to really get and one of the things that you can do is also you can upload existing content that you've written and ask it to mirror your voice. But even then, which is why you really want to give chat something to work with. So if you are, if you want to create a social media plan, ideally you want it to mirror what you already have. So you want it to mirror your voice, what you already have on social media, because otherwise it's just going to come up with a bunch of nonsensical stuff that's probably going to sound wildly excited. And if you send it to Amy, she's going to be like, so, but we love chat for all the things. I think it's definitely worth exploring,
For sure.
how it can, help you be more efficient and, be your second brain, because it's not always easy being an author. We've talked about that a lot on this show in particular. So, I want to thank you all. Did I miss anything, Amy, before I close out the show? Did we cover everything? With that, I want to thank you all so much for listening. If this is your first time listening, we have lots and lots of shows. Definitely go back to our library with 5 years worth of shows for you to peek in on and listen to. And be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. I know the majority of you are listening on iTunes. I am blown away. Amy, before we were in the green room, she told us about how many downloads that we're getting. I am really blown away. So y'all are listening and hopefully enjoying it. And if you are, we love reviews wherever you listen to podcasts. So definitely leave us a review, email us a review, and check the show notes for the pre-order contest that we have running. Super excited about that. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.